Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Room, the podcast brought to you by LFC Transfer Room. It's a special edition today. This is the second time we've recorded this week, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But there has been certain transfer news that has been evolving over the past day or so. Alex, my co-host, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I've just got back from a bit of five-a-side. Couldn't quite grab as many goals as certain Uruguayan, but fresh now, ready for the podcast. So yeah, I'm doing all right.
Fantastic. And over to Rigo. How you doing, brother?
Doing well. Still down here in sunny Tampa Bay. Having a great time on vacation.
Excellent. Good news. Let's kick off with the transfer roundup then, before we get on to some main headline news. So it has broken today that Liverpool are very close to signing Calvin Ramsey for a £4 million deal from Aberdeen. The right back we have discussed on the pod before, so please obviously listen to the archive and see what this right back can bring, because he does look like a pretty phenomenal talent. Neil Jones has said today that Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain has interest from West Ham. He will be allowed to leave Liverpool this summer, and West Ham are amongst some of the suitors. Speaking about outgoings, Takumi Minamino is closing in on a Liverpool departure as well. That's rumoured for around about £17 million, with Leeds, Southampton, Wolves, Fulham and Monaco all interested. So again, it looks like a great bit of business really for Liverpool, because as sad as it would be to see Minamino go, he did come in for around about 7-8 million. So it looks like a good spot of business there. I wish Taki nothing but the best. He's been a phenomenal servant and he had a really good season last year. And if it wasn't for him, we certainly would not have lifted that Carabao Cup. I remember the limbs at Anfield against Leicester, a moment I'll never forget. So thank you, Minamino, for that. And another outgoing departure is Sadio Mane, who we'll discuss briefly, because Bayern Munich have come back with a second offer, which is slightly more insulting actually than the first offer. How that was even possible, I have no idea. But I'm sure you'll all be aware that Bayern Munich are absolutely trying to lowball Julian Ward and Liverpool Football Club with the latest Mane offer. They have offered €30 million, but some of those do feature add-ons, which include Mane winning the Ballon d'Or not once, not twice, but 3 times, and the Champions League not once, not twice, but 3 times, amongst other European trophies too. I mean, you know, to bring up the old line, what are they smoking over there at the Allianz? Alex, thoughts on what Bayern are trying to do? Are they trying to buy back a little bit of goodwill from the Thiago deal? I mean, it certainly doesn't sit right with Julian Ward, who quite rightly has said that he's not going to sit down and talk to the sporting director of Bayern until they, you know, quite rightly produce a sensible offer for one of the world's best forwards.
Yeah, I think that they're certainly going the wrong way about trying to get a bit of goodwill back, putting what's been described as laughable offers in. We can all see what they're doing, and we know what they're doing. Mane's got a year left. They're using that as a bargaining tool, anything to get this deal to as low as they possibly can. You could, quite similar to how we sort of did with Thiago. I think we know that the other party will be parting, so it's just how low can you get it down. But with the fee and the add-ons, what is the point in them add-ons? Something that he's not going to do and they're not going to do. It is a laughable offer, so no surprise they've been rejected. But at the same time, I think it is only an amount of time before we find out that a fee's been agreed and he's gone. Because I think obviously his head's out of Liverpool, and I think we've also acknowledged that he's going and we're not standing in his way. So I think it's only a matter of time, but they've got to really sort out their fee and their proposal, or it'll take them longer, and they'll probably end up paying a bit more.
It's quite ironic, really, because they tried to do this with the Leroy Sané deal when they publicly made a ridiculously low offer, thinking that they're going to get a bargain, and then they ended up paying what was expected anyway. So it looked as if Sané went for a lot more money, but they probably paid what it was worth anyway. Same as Mane. If they come out and pay 45 million or whatever it is that's being quoted, you would take that for Mane. I think that's a fair fee, especially since, you know, Gabriel Jesus is talking about going for 60 million euros. Let's not forget his contract is also due next summer. I know who I would rather sign if I'm Bayern Munich. Yes, there is longevity in Gabriel Jesus, but I don't think Bayern need a player, you know, who will be good in a couple of years. I think they need someone right now. Rigo, what was your reaction to the Mane news, and what do you think to the bid?
Holy cow, what a low bid. I think I would have thought they'd at least be respectable with their opening bid. And then the second one, as you mentioned, was even more laughable. Uh, Besides Messi or Ronaldo, who has won consecutive Ballon d'Ors, and Champions League. So I think it's pretty insulting. I know there's been mention of their board kind of coming over to Liverpool to meet and discuss in person, but unless they're really willing to put a, a real offer for a player of Mane's quality, I don't think Liverpool should even entertain it until they do.
And it's one of those that they've got to be quite careful, because there is interest from other clubs. If Mane's got in his head that he's leaving and he ends up not going to Bayern, then the likes of PSG are circling, and they will pay that money, and they probably will pay Mane a better contract. So Bayern might have to tread quite carefully here, because they could very well lose a target who would absolutely tear up the Bundesliga, in my opinion, if Lewandowski's leaving, or regardless if he's leaving or not. Imagine that, Lewandowski and Mane in the same team. Woof. It's something that Bayern fans would love, I'm sure. But yeah, they need to be quite careful. And as we've said before, wish nothing but the best for Sadio Mane. And I do hope that he gets his move if that's what he really wants. Mainly because it would help fund a certain Liverpool transfer as well. Throughout the week, rumours and reports such as price tags and clubs' interest and player preferences have all been mentioned, but significant news broke today. Now we're recording this on a Wednesday, regarding the future of a 22-year-old prolific goal scorer. In the early hours of the morning, Record Portugal, who is an outlet who are usually fairly reliable actually when it comes to reporting on the Portuguese league, claimed that Liverpool are willing to make Darwin Nunez the club's most expensive signing ever. And as I said, a lot of people sometimes, especially over in England, discredit foreign sources because it's not the Echo, or it's not James Pearce, or it's not David Lynch, who are all great journalists, but maybe not the Echo. But they were early to break the Bruno Fernandes news to Manchester United, the João Felix to Atletico, Ronaldo to Juventus. So when I woke up this morning, I did have a little bit of hope. I mean, when you woke up, Alex, and you saw this, because we'll get on to all of the other, the links as well. But what was your first thing this morning? Because I certainly woke up cleaning my teeth, as I do, look on Twitter. I was like, holy smokes, like this looks like it's got some legs. And before, it was sort of seemed like we discussed it last week, Liverpool have interest, but now it looks like there's actually something solid. So Record Portugal were the first ones to break this. I mean, what were your thoughts this morning?
Yeah, with a source like that, you've got to consider it as their area of expertise. The journalists around here obviously involves us, but they're the ones who are going to get the scoop first. It's where they live, it's where they cover, and it's what they do year in, year out. So when a source like that comes forward, I wouldn't say I'm skeptical of it. If anything, it gives it a bit more substance to the usual names who you see. I think it was only a matter of time before something really come out about us approaching a player. We've heard rumours going that we'd like to get a Mane replacement before Mane actually goes. That's part of what's considered for him to actually leave. So I think it's only a matter of time before something actually broke where we've got our hands on a player, or looking to get our hands on a player, so to speak.
Yeah, and then later on in the morning, we had the top-tier transfer guru, Paul Joyce, absolutely brilliant for Merseyside News, stated that Liverpool's interest is genuine. So we have now some sort of solid foundation that Liverpool are interested in this player. And Nunez is also keen on joining Liverpool. Benfica wanted a reported 85 million euros, and the deal would come down to whether an appropriate price could be met. So now we have this solid foundation, Rigo. We have genuine interest. Paul Joyce is saying that Liverpool do have a genuine interest. And I tweeted out early this morning when I saw the Record Portugal, it'll only be a matter of time before the English journalists get wind of this and start to generate whether this is true or not. And you couldn't have asked really for anyone better than Paul Joyce writing for the Times there, who came out and broke this. So Rigo, I know that you're in a different time zone. I mean, what was your early morning when you woke up? What was your early morning thoughts with the Joyce news, the Record Portugal news?
My early morning thought was, wow, they're not wasting time, and they really shouldn't at this point, just because some of these targets are going to move, and there's obvious interest not only from Man United, but we're also hearing rumblings of Atletico sniffing around Nunez as well. So definitely, I'm very happy that this is kind of proceeding at pace, especially since we're trying to complete the Mane deal as well and kind of get him to where he needs to go or wants to go, respectfully, you know. So very excited. Wednesday, couldn't ask for anything in the middle of the week to kind of break things up and kind of cheer me on for the remainder of the week. So once you started seeing the tweets, first from Pedro Sepulveda, the source you mentioned in Portugal, and then you're kind of seeing it from James Pierce as well as Fabrizio. You know, I always look for Fabrizio, and it's here we go tweet. So once they started reporting it, and Fabrizio did say that there's a verbal offer already on the table for Nunez, around 80 million euros, with up to 20 million in add-ons, and we've seen that reported in numerous sources as well. So very, very happy. Put a little pep in my step on this Wednesday. So, and kind of spearheaded us to try and get this podcast recorded with the excitement that this is brewing within us.
I mean, the one that did it for me was actually the Daily Mail journalist Dominic King, because he went on to report that Liverpool would smash their transfer record in order to sign the Uruguayan gunman. And that for me was the biggest development, because if Liverpool are looking to smash their record with Nunez, well, our record currently is 75 million with Van Dijk. And if Benfica are wanting 80 to 85, well, that's not that much more. So it is a doable and feasible thing there to think, actually, the fact that Liverpool are looking to surpass this amount might suggest an offer of 75 million plus is indeed inbound. And that's the bit where I was like, this might actually happen. You know, this transfer record might actually be broken. So that was, you know, Dominic King was really the one who cemented in me, wow, this is serious now. Which leads us on to the latest news, which is that the Portuguese press have stated an agreement of 80 million euros and 20 million euros in addition add-on fees is only a matter of time, and that Benfica will actually accept that 100 million all-in offer, which is phenomenal. Like if that is actually what has happened, you know, that's Liverpool moving in the transfer market like no other team can do. We've seen it with Jota, we saw it with Luis Diaz, we saw it with Fabinho. I didn't think somebody as high profile as Darwin Nunez would go at this pace. If this is all done and wrapped up by tomorrow, now I'm being optimistic. Wow, like what an introduction to the transfer market for Julian Ward. You know, who's having his first summer as as head of recruitment at Liverpool. So that's phenomenal to sign a £68.5 million player, then an additional 17 million. You know, Mane pays for half of that. Hopefully, we were hopefully going to raise sales from Nico Williams, from Oxlade-Chamberlain, from Minamino, and it looks as if, you know, Liverpool might very well break even. You know, we signed Carvalho on a relatively cheap fee, and again we sign. Hopefully, we'll be signing Calvin Ramsey on a relatively cheap fee. Imagine that, Liverpool breaking even with those three players. It's something that's, you know, unheard of in footballing terms. So hats off again to the Liverpool recruitment if it gets over the line. Let's have a look then at who Darwin Nunez is, because he burst onto the scene really this season in Portugal in Benfica, and he wasn't really that well known, I don't think, you know, to European or worldwide football fans, perhaps apart from what's in the Portuguese league. I think he burst onto the scene in the Champions League. He is only 22, so people can be forgiven for that. I know that you guys have done your research on Darwin Nunez. Alex, you are the stat man. Alex likes the per 90, so I'm going to pass over to Alex, who will inform us all about what you can expect for, you know, on average 90 minutes from Darwin Nunez.
Yeah, I'll happily take on the Mr. Per 90 nickname at the minute, because that's the only stat I tend to really wheel off. But I was sceptical about Nunez at first, because just from the naked eye, obviously he's a fine player, but it's all about how would he fit. And now we've really delved into it, I think there's a definite Klopp player in there. The one that stuck out to me the most is defensive numbers from the front. 81% percentile of interceptions he makes. We even saw it at Anfield. I think there was times where we went for the switch and he was straight back and he's intercepting deep. So, we all know Klopp's foundation is to press and chase from the front, but also to defend from the front as well. And that both counteract each other as the best form of both defence and attack. So when you're looking for a Jurgen Klopp player, I think this is potentially going to be one of those. 97 percentile non-penalty goals. I know you touched on that a week ago, Richie. That's great numbers. A lot of these strikers, warrant the duty of taking penalties for their club. That's part and parcel of being a striker and getting your goal tallies up. But he obviously can score without that necessary requirement. But 26 goals in the league. You could say that the Portuguese league isn't that competitive, but I think that argument goes when you look at his performances in the Champions League. You can't knock a player for what league they're playing in when they're performing in the Champions League. You can't fluke that, and you can't get away with that. It's 6 and 10 in the Champions League, and you look at the group he was in. Tough, and obviously playing against Liverpool, scoring against us. You can't fluke numbers like that really at all. And then you look at his carries in a game. He makes 5.42 progressive carries a game. I don't even think Mane makes them numbers himself, and you can argue again the league compared to league and the system we play. Mane's more of a drop deep progressive passer. Nunez obviously showing that he can do it with a dribble. So I think it's like for like in that case. It just depends if you can actually progress that ball up the pitch. But I think once we see him come into this team, and whether or not the system gets tweaked, I don't think dropping deep like Mane done this season will be a problem for him. I think he'll be finely tuned. I think if there's anything that needs to be tweaked or tuned into his game, I think that'll get done in pre-season should we get it over the line. So I have no worries about this transfer really anymore, to be honest, looking at his stats and what he's done this year.
Excellent analysis there of the per 90. I'm going to roll it back. He burst onto the scene as an 18-year-old. He made his debut for Penarol, who is a team in Uruguay. He had to wait 11 months, though, to score his maiden goal because he did have a series of knee injuries that I know that people have commented on. He eventually had surgery on his knee in 2021. So hopefully those issues, and I'm sure the medical staff at Liverpool will go over it like a fine tooth comb. I'm sure that those issues hopefully will be past him. He left Uruguay in 2019 and he joined a Spanish team called Almeria, who were in the second division of Spanish football. And again, it took him time to settle, but he did go on to make 32 appearances and he had a return of 16 goals and 3 assists that season. The next season, Benfica came calling and they purchased him for 24 million euros in the summer of 2020. Almeria also put in, quite rightly, a sell-on fee of 20% for anything above the original purchase fee, which means, should this deal go through, Almeria would stand to earn around 12 million euros from the initial fee and a further 4 million euros with the add-ons. So again, that's good business really for Almeria. In his first season at Benfica, he made 43 appearances. He scored 13 goals, but this for me is the one. He provided 12 assists in the central forward role. Now we know that the Liverpool attacking players assist each other. They're looking to create players. His creative output is absolutely phenomenal. It again took him time to settle. He was often quite rash and composed with his finish. But his second season, he would fare much better. He had a wonderful campaign last season, which, as you guys have said, he netted 34 times in 41 games in all competitions and laid on 4 assists as well for his teammates. So not as many assists, but a far greater goal output. And that's how Benfica play. They play through him, that he is the main goal getter. Here's a player who likes to play centrally, but he does drift to the left and he finds those spaces and those pockets. He's a very direct player. He likes to run at defenders and towards goal, which is perfect for Klopp and for Liverpool because those three change positions so often and are so comfortable in doing so. So expect to see Nunez pop up on the left-hand side at times as well. Rigo, anything there that you would like to add? Obviously, we've got tons of propaganda for you for Darwin Nunez. You're going to go away listening or watching this thinking, I know everything there is to know about this kid. Rigo, anything else that you'd like to add before I go on?
Yes, definitely. The one thing that kind of jumped out to me on his stats and using the smarter scout data that we can all view if on the Athletic or is kind of his aerial duels was kind of low, which was a little bit surprising to me. I think that's obviously a room for improvement on him. But as Alex was stating earlier, his carry and dribble, progressive passing, expected goals, shot creation is really up there as far as strikers in Europe. And I think those numbers will translate to the Premier League. We have a history of Primera Liga players moving over to England and having great success. Ruben Diaz, coming over from Benfica, turned out to be the player of the year his first season and completely changed Man City's defense. And we just saw this past January when Luis Diaz came in and took like a duck to water, unlike some English-born players who have taken a while, even when changing teams within the Premier League. So I really expect him to kind of hit the ground running, especially with a full preseason if the deal does go through. As we know, there is some acclimation time to get to playing Klopp style and into the system, but I think he can kind of just roll right in. And in my head, I'm already imagining him and Luis Diaz on that left flank, just absolutely terrorizing opposing defenses. And one thing that really excites me as well is even with those aerial stats being a little bit on the low end, he does show a fight and a willingness to go up for the ball in the air. And his touches within the box stats are off the charts as well. So all those crosses coming in from Andy and from Trent will find a head to meet it instead of getting parried out or headed out by the defenders. And hopefully we'll put more balls in the net via direct passing that way instead of from set pieces going into the box. So just very excited for the dynamism that he can provide, the size speed combo. He's 6'2", a fighter. From the articles that I've read, when he was in Almeria, when he just got to the Spanish second league, he hired his own nutritionist and trainer of his own accord, just to try and get himself in the best possible shape. And those are the kind of things that you kind of look for in players, that willingness to improve, that desire to be the best, and to do whatever it is possible within your ability to put yourself in a position to be a star player. And just going back to one of Liverpool's best players and a fellow Uruguayan, Luis Suarez, he gave him his seal of approval and vouched for his future success as well, that he's going to be world class one day. And I think if Darwin does complete the move to Liverpool, that's where he'll be. Just like Luis Diaz, value skyrocketed once the transfer came through and he started playing with Liverpool. He's a $100 million rated player at this day and age. I think Nunez's value will far exceed whatever transfer fee we pay for him. The other exciting bit of news, I know that we're smashing our transfer record that we previously spent on Virgil, but when we got Virgil, he was already approaching his 30s. At this point, Darwin's 22 years old. If and when he reaches, if it's a 5-year deal, his 4th year, and he doesn't want to resign, or there's any type of issues that way, or he wants a new challenge, I think the sell-on value that Liverpool will have with him will either be the same or close to it. So just a great mover all around. I'm very excited just to see what the future holds, and I think this kid he just has room to grow and improve, and get him year 2 in Klopp's system. I think he's just going to be murdering folks.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Rigo, as well. I think when you look at the pathway Nunez has took up to now, it's sort of similar to a player like Robertson's, which gives you the impression that he really is a Klopp player. He's not played for the most glamorous of teams. Obviously, no disrespect to Benfica, but the Spanish side, and he's really had to fight and claw his way to get to where he is, to put himself in the position where we're smashing a record fee to get him. And I think that desire and hunger is something that we look for in players when we're actually scouting for them, is the actual personality traits they possess. So when you mix that personality trait with how good he is in the air, And the fact he makes such good, intelligent runs as well in the box, his runs aren't pointless. I think you look at players like Trent and Robertson and the service they can provide, that to me, it's golden. You're going to get quality crosses to a player who knows how to run, where to run, and how to put it in. In terms of how much we're actually buying him for, if you can actually consider it, I know it's our record fee, but if you actually consider it to the trend of the market, I mean, how much did United pay for Maguire? Too much, and a similar sort of price. So it's our record fee, but the trend of the actual market, this isn't, it's not out of this world. There's been players, years ago who went for more. So I think the fees actually, it's not too much as a downside as some people may think as well.
You've just seen, again, another Liverpool target, Tchouaméni, go for way over 100 million euros as well. So, it is an inflated market. There is money to spend out there, and rightly so, Benfica are holding out for what they think is a fee that he's worth, and hopefully Liverpool match that fee. Just building on really to what Rigo said, he's bulked up over the last few seasons. Darwin Nunez, he's very, very strong, and he scored 6 goals with his head last season. Most of his goals come from his right boot. He has registered 9 goals from his supposed weaker left foot. So again, he does look like a bit of an all-round goal scorer. All in all for Benfica, he has played 56 games and scored 31 goals and registered 14 assists. For those mathematicians amongst us, that's 45 goal involvements in just 56 games. So that's not bad going for a 22-year-old. Now, I want to talk about some of the areas which he can be coached in. His passing can be quite inconsistent at times, as suggested, with his passing success rate. It's quite low. Also, it's quite irrelevant because he's what you would call a low volume passer. He doesn't pass too much in that Benfica team. So again, and when he is, he's trying to progress that play. So he's making quick passes, quick balls. He's trying to progress that play. And again, that link-up play is something that which Jurgen Klopp can definitely coach him in and improve him in. Remember, this is a 22-year-old we're talking about. We're not talking about the finished article yet, because we'd be paying double if that was the case. But these are points that you can be coached in. He has taken time to settle when moving to a new league. He was young when he moved to Spain, and young as well when he moved to Portugal. He's going to be young when he comes here. He's not perhaps going to hit the ground running as much as Luis Diaz has done. But again, that's yet to be seen. I don't think we can write him off yet. What is good, though, about it is what we've seen with the likes of Fabinho and Robertson, that Klopp will take his time in selecting him. He's not going to be needing to force Nunez into the starting 11 straight away. Let's not forget, we've still got Bobby Firmino and Diogo Jota who can occupy that central role until Nunez is up to speed and he's got his confidence. And who better, what better manager to bring out confidence than Jurgen Klopp into a young striker? I'm pretty sure that as soon as he gets his confidence, as soon as he gets the flow and the pace and the rhythm of the Premier League, he's going to hit the ground flying. Same goes with his pressing, really. He's not a consistent pressing machine because Benfica don't need him to be. So he's not used to having that constant press. But as we saw at Anfield, and as you guys alluded to as well, he certainly has that pressing gear in him to disrupt the defence as he did with us. So again, this is something which can be coached. We are hopefully going to get him on the 1st of July because that's obviously when players can actually move then. He will have a whole pre-season under Klopp, which is going to be momentous because he's going to have a good few weeks because of the early start to the season with the World Cup. He is going to have a good few weeks / month and a bit to really, get into the Liverpool way, if you like. Also, by the way, Luis Diaz is going to have his first pre-season under Klopp. Now, what on earth is he going to turn into with a pre-season under Klopp? He's going to be an absolute machine. All in all, I think, there are areas where Nunez can improve on his touch as well. People have said in tight spaces, he's not got a very good touch. He's 6'1". We can't all be giants and be like Peter Crouch and have the ball at our feet, at all times. That man was phenomenal. He had such good close control. But again, it's things that can be coached. There's nothing in there that, yes, he's not the best at these things, but the most important thing is yet. He's not the best in this yet. For me, I agree with what both of you said. There isn't really too much downside. If he can stay fit, there's not too much downside at all. Rigo, I'll come back over to you. Any final words, really, on Darwin Nunez and what he brings to Liverpool, or what he can excel in, or what he needs to improve in? Anything at all?
Um, it's just excited just to see what once he does get in, and hopefully, knock on wood, deal goes through and does come in. Just excited to see his progression and his growth. Just looking at his underlying numbers, comparing them to the likes of Mo Salah, Diogo Jota, Luis Diaz, and even Sadio Mane. Some of his stats already supersede the aforementioned star players that we have on our team now. So I think with the proper coaching and our style of play, I think he can even exceed those numbers. Just because, again, he's 22 years old, he's still moldable. He still has a ton of room to grow. And the most important thing is, by all accounts, from interviews with former teammates or even former coaches, he has that hunger and desire to improve and be one of the best players in the world. And that's really what you need, besides talent. Obviously, you could have all the talent in the world, but unless you have that desire, it'll just stay there. So that's the one big defining characteristic that we kind of see up and down through Liverpool's squad, is those try hard players. Andy Robertson wasn't blowing anyone out of the water before he came to Liverpool, but look at him now, one of the best left backs in the world. So I'm just very excited. Hopefully this goes through. And then this allows us then to kind of fit in other puzzle pieces around them. Hopefully we do bring another midfield option in as well. But up until then, the transfer window, Julian Ward's inaugural transfer window, is pretty off to an awesome start. First with Carvalho, Ramsey supposedly coming in for 4 million, and obviously Darwin Nunez. So just excited, and let's keep smiling. Trust in Klopp, trust in the Reds.
Yeah, you got a bit greedy there mentioning the other midfielder. Maybe we'll save that pod for another day as well. If they get Nunez over the line, I think we might have to sell before we can buy. I mean, what you alluded to earlier, the company called 23, which is a content toolbox, actually pinged out, and I think Rigo, you put it on our WhatsApp chat earlier. They pinged out a before Klopp. So they had Salah, Jota, and Mane at Roma, Wolves, and Southampton, respectively. And they put up Darwin Nunez currently at Benfica, obviously before Klopp. And Darwin Nunez he has a better expected goal, shot attempted, and touches in opposition's box than all three of them. And we've seen what Mane, Jota, and Salah can do under Klopp. So expect perhaps big things, once he gets going. What I also enjoyed perhaps the most is that he quite clearly said he wanted to play for Liverpool, and that is worth paying that money for. That for me is for Klopp, that's a sign of approval, I'm sure. Alex, any final thoughts? And by the way, I hope that he does sign now, because if not, we've probably wasted about 25 minutes of everyone's lives. So I do hope that he does sign. It is 99% done according to reports. Alex, over to you.
Yeah, in terms of final thoughts, there's definitely a few. Just touch upon what you said there about the fact he wanted to sign with Liverpool. We can't forget that this was a race with Man United. A few years ago, United would be the obvious, the obvious choice with the money and the size of the club, etc., etc. But now it's due to Jurgen Klopp's work, most notably, it's come to the point where Liverpool are the choice over Manchester United. That obviously coincides with their downfall, but the matter of the fact is that a player said that I want to play for Liverpool, not United. So I think that it's a monumental statement. In terms of the fee and what we're actually paying for Darwin Nunez, I'm touching wood, but I don't actually think this deal can really flop. When you score that many goals so raw and so young, got me fingers crossed here. I think it's all going to be about subjectively, how does he live up to his price tag for you as an individual? So does his output for you warrant the price that's been paid? But I don't really worry about that. And another point you said before, Richie, about his volume of passes. You got to consider the fact that he's still raw. It can still be coached, and yeah, maybe he can't pass like Pirlo. But when is he actually going to be needed to pass that much in a Liverpool team? When are we actually going to get to the point where we're reliant on Darwin Nunez's passes? Not that they're going to be, to the point where, if we give them the ball to pass, it's going to ruin our chances of attack. That definitely won't be the case, but it's not something that we've bought him to rely on. He's got assets that have made him a 100 million euro player. So with that, I think everything else is obviously coachable. So I'm completely sold on this deal should it come through, and I'm getting really excited about the prospect of him under Klopp next season.
Me too. Absolutely agree 100% with everything that both of you have said, and hopefully you guys as well who have stayed with us and have listened have learned something new about Darwin Nunez, because obviously it took us three guys time to research who he is and how he fits into the Klopp system. So yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed it along the way too. And like I say, it's 99% done. Hopefully we'll get that extra percent by tomorrow. We are recording on Wednesday night, so we'll see if it gets done. Fingers crossed that it will do. And hopefully, Darwin Nunez might take up the number 10. Please make sure that you listen to the pod. When you do listen, you subscribe both on Spotify and on YouTube as well. We're actually hitting quite good numbers now. So thank you so much as well, for all of you. And rate us on Spotify. You can give us 5 stars. Which would be absolutely amazing, for the 5 stars, and obviously, Apple Podcast as well. But thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for Alex and for Rigo for helping me explain who Darwin Nunez is and what he can bring to Liverpool. But for now, this is, again, the end of another podcast, The Room podcast, brought to you by LFC Transfer Room. Thank you very much for joining us. As always, up the Reds. And for this, up Darwin Nunez.